Hello and welcome to episode 173 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is February 6th, 2023. Today I'm wearing two pieces that I love wearing together, and even though they were knit by different people at different times from different yarns, I think they go together really nicely. So the loop scarf that I'm wearing was knit by my sister, and she used two different yarns. So it's two color brioche with cables, and the Noro yarn was bought by her. I forgot where she bought it, but she gave it to me as a present. But I didn't know what to make with it straight away, so I just had it in my house. And then one day she was visiting and she forgot to bring her knitting, and she said, have you got something that I can knit? And then she thought of that yarn, and at that time she just loved doing two color brioche, and she said, if you have another yarn that I could use to combine with this one. So I gave her some black soft merino, which is a Wollrödel yarn that I usually have at home because I love knitting with it. So she just cast on a number of stitches and then started knitting brioche, and then she thought it was too boring, so she started doing the cables. And then I think she kept knitting until she had almost used up the Noro yarn, and it became so long that I said if it would get too long if I still wanted to wear it as a loop. So she stopped knitting and then she gave it to me. I sewed the live stitches to the cast on with the black yarn, so there is a black line running down here, but I sort of did try to sew it together in pattern, so it's very stretchy, so it's as stretchy as the rest of the fabric. And on this side there's also this black line running down because I didn't use the colorful yarn, but you can kind of see with the black, it's hard to see, but the stitches sort of go through, they're not interrupted really. And yeah, I'm quite happy with the seam. I don't mind the fact that it's visible as long as it's flexible and it looks nice. It's okay. And yeah, and the colors in the loop, the Noro colors go really nicely with this neon jumper. This was a crochet pattern from the magazine Simply Crochet, and it was one of their crochet alongs where we got or they put the instructions for the different parts of the pullover into several magazines, several Simply Crochet magazines. So you had to buy quite a few of the magazines to get all the pieces together. And you could, with the pieces, with the pattern, you could either make a pullover or you could make a blanket. If you made double the amount of pieces, you could crochet a blanket. And I think you wouldn't crochet these bits, I think, or maybe in a different size. I don't remember. I crocheted most of it as per pattern, and I used basically the same colors that they used, I think. One of the things I changed is that this is the way the pattern was written in the magazine, and you were supposed to make two sleeves the same, but I didn't. With the second sleeve, I decided to sort of sort the colors. And I crocheted a bit more, some black onto the side, so the sleeves would be just slightly wider. But otherwise, I think I was pretty close to the pattern with the way I made this one. After I had started the pullover and I couldn't continue because I had to wait for the next magazine to be published, I started another version. So I crocheted a blue-white cardigan. I crocheted the same pieces in various blue colors out of cotton, and then I sewed that together as a cardigan instead of a pullover. So I like that one a lot too. Yeah, but I also like this colorful neon pullover, and then I love to wear this loop with it. I will usually, when I combine these two, I will have the black side showing so that the colors just peek through, because if I put this side outside, there's just a lot of color. But if I wear it with the black pullover or a black shirt or something, then I will usually have the colorful side showing. And the loop is long enough that I can wear it around my neck twice. As I said, I'll usually turn it so that the black is showing more than the colors, and then there's enough colors in the pullover. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing today. Yeah, and when I was checking my list where I write down what I wear in every video, I was quite surprised that I'd only worn this once before. I've forgotten what I was wearing it with in that episode. But anyway, so what I'm wearing today. On to finished objects. I only have one finished object this week, but it can't always be 3. And I have 2 new cast-ons, but I think that's okay. I think for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, I had more finished objects than new cast-ons, so it's okay to have 2 this week. And my finished project was actually a new cast-on last week. It's the square that I knit for Viva Vittoria, for this organization who are planning to put a lot of knit and crocheted blankets onto a public square in Darmstadt beginning of March, so about a month to go. And yeah, so I'm still working to get more squares done to donate to them, and this was the one that I started last week. And because I didn't want to swatch with the yarn, I first knit this bit, then I picked up stitches along the side and I knit this way until the whole thing was square. And you can see that these colors are quite a bit lighter than these, so that's the second ball of yarn that I attached to finish the square, because even though one ball has 200 grams, the yardage just wasn't enough to finish the whole square. But that's okay. It's a fairly simple pattern, but I think quite effective. And I put my name tag. They want everyone who knits or crochets a square to put some sort of tag onto the square. It doesn't have to be your name. It could just be the same kind of button on all the squares that you make, or you crochet something, or you sew something else onto the square. Just make sure that there is some sort of sign of the person who made the square. So when they put the blankets together, each blanket consists of 4 squares. They can make sure that they are picking squares that were made by 4 different people, because that's sort of their philosophy, that 4 different people knit or crochet the squares. The 5th person selects which ones to put together. The 6th person actually sews them together. And then the 7th person puts another tag onto the blanket, which is sort of the blanket tag. And I think it does say something like Viva Vittoria and maybe Darmstadt 2023, something like that. So that all in all, 7 different people have worked on each blanket, and each blanket represents 7 voices shouting out against violence against women. So that's the idea. That's my finished object of today. Then on to works in progress. And this week I can actually start with the knee-high sock that I am working on. Last week I'd actually left it at home, and one of my knit blankets lay on top of the project. That's why I didn't see it when I packed my stuff. A bit stupid, but things happen. So this is what it looks like now. So last week I just finished the heel. I was really happy that the foot was done. So I think I was supposed to show you this pattern and the heel, because the week before I think I just finished the treble clefs. So now I've not only finished the foot, but I've added the next pattern. Yeah, this is just a nice star pattern, and it has these stripes going up the side of the star. So there were very short floats in this pattern, different than this pattern. There were some fairly long floats in between these bits. Yeah, so I finished this. I've already chosen the next pattern to put on top, but I'll show you next week. Don't want to tell you yet, it's a surprise. And I was asked from one of my viewers, I think it was on the German channel, but anyway, I was asked to show the book again that I used to pick out the different patterns. And it's this one. This is the German version. The English or the original version is called Strick Forever. So this is the second book that Anna Bauer published with all these colorful knits in it. And it not only has instructions for several projects, but it also has this pattern, has a collection of these different patterns that you can use. And for every project in the book, they tell you, you can, of course, knit the same patterns that they give, but they always encourage people to go and pick their own patterns and make every project unique and the way you want it and like it. So that's that. Then I had another request by maybe one viewer, maybe even several, who asked me with the film reel socks to show the inside. And I'm very willing to do those things. I just keep forgetting them. So this is the second film reel sock that I'm knitting for my brother-in-law. So I think last week, again, I showed you the heel, and I've knit those 2 film reels, and I've started the third one. So I was really rather busy on these, and I am hoping to finish them this week. But so I won't forget to show you the inside of the sock. I put the other sock the wrong way around. So this is the first film reel sock, and I turned it around and put it on a sock blocker so you can have a look at that. As you can see, I'm catching my floats, and as the pattern is very regular, I'm very regular in catching my floats. So I'll catch them either after 2 or 3 stitches, and I'll switch between 2 and 3 stitches every round. So this is what it looks like. And I think the pattern says to cut the yarn after every film strip, but I just won't do that. So these are the ends that I cut off. Here are 2 ends, I guess, that my black yarn ran out, so I had to start a new ball. But here you can see that I'm just keeping these, it's probably vertical floats. I'll just keep them there. Of course, I had to cut the yarn on before I did the heel and then attach them again. So there are quite a few ends to weave in, but not too many. And I am going to go ahead and weave them in soon, all except for the last one, because my brother-in-law hasn't tried them on yet. So I'll keep that last end until he's tried them on. And if they fit, I can sew in the end. If it doesn't fit, I can undo it and change it to either smaller or bigger, whatever it needs to be. Yeah, so this is the film reel sock right side out, and this is the film reel sock wrong side out. Not a lot to do. That's good. Then the next sock I have on the go are the very simple vanilla socks called Annegret. I had started the heel last week, but I hadn't finished it. So I finished the heel and just added a few rounds. So this is one of the projects that don't have a high priority, but it's a very good pattern to be picking up and just knitting when I have to concentrate on something else. So I usually get a bit of work in on the sock every week, but I'm not in a hurry. And I really enjoy it. I like the colors. This is one of the Opal subscription yarns. It's quite funny the way my yarn balls look after a while. You can see that I keep pushing it into a bag and pulling it out, and I carry it around a lot because this is also a very good project to be knitting on the go. It's small, it's easy to pack, it's easy to knit, and I can stop anytime. So yeah, that's that. And then I have one more sock, and that's one of the 2 new cast-ons. And this is another test knit. I haven't test knit patterns in quite a while, I feel. And then when Deb Milstein asked if someone wanted to test knit her shorty socks, I responded and said I would like to do that. I've test knit for Deb Milstein before. I knit a little loop. And so it took a while for the pattern to come because when I signed up, the pattern was still with her tech editor, so I knew I had to wait a bit. But one of the reasons I wanted to test knit the pattern is that my sister loves shorty socks, so I told her that I was going to test knit that pattern, and if she wanted to have the socks, which yarn she wanted me to use. So she chose this really nice blue, grey, and a little purple color. It's of course an opal yarn. The series was called Comedy. That is a fairly old color, so it's probably 3 or 4 years old. Yeah, but the Comedy series was a really beautiful one. I'm pretty sure I've knit other colors out of that series, but I don't think I've knit that color. Oh no, maybe I knit that color. I knit a pair of socks with 3 different colors, and the yarn held double, and I would change which colors I doubled, and maybe this was one of the colors. Not too sure, but it's possible. Anyway, so this is the color that my sister chose, and then I cast on, and it's a nice cuff, and then there are some short rows to just slightly lift the back part of the sock, and then there's a what's that called in English? It's I think a heel flap and gusset heel. This is actually the first heel that I ever learned to knit, so that was quite interesting. And I've just gone back to knitting in the round, so this is the heel flap. I still have to knit the gusset. And then there's a very small and simple lace pattern on top of the foot that I have only just started. So I'm pretty sure I can show you more of that next week. So as I said, it's a fairly simple pattern which makes the knitting very easy, and my sister is very fond of simple patterns. She doesn't always have to have the more complicated pattern that I prefer. So I thought this is the perfect sock for her. It's short and it's fairly simple, and I get to test knit a pattern again, which I enjoy a lot. So as this is a test knit, I'm not quite sure what the deadline is, but I know every designer wants the tests to be finished as quickly as possible. So I'll try and, especially with the first sock, I'll try and knit as quickly as I can to finish that, to go through the pattern, and then maybe with the second sock I can take it a bit more slowly. Which reminds me that I signed up for the Sock Madness. I wanted to talk about that before, but I completely forgot about it every week. The Sock Madness used to have the whole of February for people to sign up, but they changed it this year, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because this year you only have the first 2 weeks of February to sign up. So if you are interested in knitting very crazy socks, and probably, or maybe socks that won't fit you, but you get all the crazy patterns for free, now is the time to sign up. I have signed up. I haven't got the email yet to confirm that my signing up went through and everything, but I'm pretty confident it will come. I know that a lot of people sign up for the Sock Madness, so I know the people working behind the scenes are very busy, so I'm not impatient. I'm just waiting for the email to come. And so as the sign up is only the first 2 weeks of February, I guess that the second half of February will probably already be knitting the qualification socks. So if you're not familiar with the Sock Madness, it's a sock knitting contest where you get patterns and you have to knit them as written, and you have to take photographs, put them up on Ravelry, and then send an email. And the first pattern, everybody has 2 weeks time to finish it. If you do it properly, then you will be put on a team, and then you will knit and compete with your teammates until there's only one of each team left. And then in the last round, all the best people of every team will compete against each other. Hope that makes sense. If you're interested, there's a Ravelry group called Sock Madness Forever. There are all the rules and how things work. You can have a look things up there. Okay, that's it for socks for today. The next project, which is sort of sock-like, are the mittens that I'm knitting as part of the pattern battle over on Ravelry for the Opal Abo, Opal subscription group. And this is the color that everybody is knitting in the current pattern battle. And I finished the thumb increases on my mitten. I put the thumb stitches on waste yarn and continued knitting. The pattern is a bit lost in between all the colors, but I don't mind. The inside of the hand doesn't get the pattern, so you can see the yarn here. I really like the colors in the yarn. It's a very long color repeat. So even though the colors are repeating, the whole repeat is almost over. So I've checked the ball of yarn. Once I finish the white stripe, I'm going back to the white and green stripe, and then the colors will repeat in the sequence. Last week I said the mitten is fairly tight, but it's not too small. So I'll see if a friend of mine who has fairly small hands, if she wants the mittens, I'll knit them for her. But I think she's not too happy with all of the colors, so maybe I'll just keep it. Wouldn't really work with this pullover, but it would work with this t-shirt. So yeah, I'm quite happy. Still haven't decided yet if I want to make full mittens or fingerless mitts. I will probably decide that sometime this week. Pattern is by Jori Locatelli, and it's a free pattern. It's called Pay It Forward, and it's a free pattern that you can get over on Ravelry. So then the next project, the non-sock yarn project, is the little dinosaur loop scarf that I am knitting for my cousin's little son. And this is my first proper double knitting project, and I am knitting 3 squares with a dinosaur skeleton into it. So this is the dinosaur's tail, and this is his first foot and leg, and this is the second. This is the other side. So yeah, whenever I have a bit of time where I can concentrate and look at my knitting, I will knit a few rows in that square. Then I get to my pullover and my cardigan that I have on the needles, and the pullover, I was knitting those 2 colors together, which is certainly a bit crazy, and this is what it looks like at the moment. So you do kind of see that there's a vertical pattern happening, but you can't really tell what it looks supposed to look like exactly. There and there, these are the first decreases that I did, and I've now knit all the rows that I knit for my size with only the 2 colors, and with the next round I will start putting in the 3rd color, which is a dark red. And yeah, I have put it on a long cable. I've tried it on. It is fairly big, so it will be an oversized pullover. There's no way this is going to be too small at all, but I don't think it's going to be too huge. So I'm still planning on keeping it. I will decide again, or I will think about it again once I finish the yoke, and I'll try it on again, and then I'll decide if I want to. I am thinking of changing the neckline, because in the book, this after the color work, it sort of just stops. There's no ribbing, there's no short rows, both of which I would like to have. So I'm thinking of adding some short rows and adding some ribbing, but that depends on how long the yoke is at that point and how it fits on me. So we'll see. These are the things that I'm planning. We'll see what actually happens. The cardigan I'm knitting out of the Noro Silk Garden Solo yarn that my sister gave to me years ago. This is the beautiful color, and I started knitting the front and backs. So I'm knitting from a Noro magazine. At some point I'll show you the picture again, but it's a fairly simple cardigan, but they're using 2 different colors. I'm going to knit the whole cardigan in 1 color. I'm knitting the stitch pattern as it is in the magazine, but I refuse to knit a back and 2 fronts and then sew everything together. So I started knitting the arms. I knit the arms up until until under the arm. So if you think a yoke, that's where you would split for the arms. That's how long I knit the arms. And then I cast on all the stitches for the 2 fronts and the back at the same time. So I won't have the seams underneath the arm. I've knit the same pattern as on the sleeve. And I have decided that I'm not going to knit a button band afterwards, but I want this bit, which is just part of the pattern, to be my button band. So on one side I'm going to sew some buttons on it, and I will choose the buttons so that they fit through this hole. That is just part of the pattern. I've seen one project on Ravelry where somebody's done the same thing, and I had the idea even before I saw the other project, but it proved to me that it works, so that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so it's quite a few stitches. I'm still on the first 50-gram ball, but there isn't too much left. As soon as I finish the first ball, I can sort of see how long the jacket might be. When I finish this ball of yarn, I will use the leftover yarn from the 2 sleeves, and then I'll start the next full ball of yarn. And then we'll see. And then my idea is to knit that to under the arm and then put all the pieces together and just do a raglan shaping to finish the cardigan off. That's the plan. So then what else? Then we have my favorite crochet project, which is a simple granny square, but crocheted out of alpaca lace yarn by Hansa Farm. This yarn has 400 meters to 50 grams, and so it's really rather thin. I'm crocheting with a 3.5 millimeter hook, and I'm using all the colors that I have in that yarn. And I think I still haven't checked whether these are actually all the colors that they make in that yarn. If not, I might go ahead and order the colors that I'm missing and try and put them in. The only color I haven't used so far is black. I've used the dark gray for the first time here, and all the other colors, or most of the other colors, I have already repeated. I won't repeat all the colors, I think. The next 2 rounds I want to crochet the purple that I've had a lot already, and then the dark red that I've only used once before, and then I'll use black for the first time. And then I'll be repeating the black and putting 2 different colors in between. And then we'll see how I go on. So this is still not 100 grams. At the moment, it's I think 96 grams. So I think I can probably crochet 1 or 2 more rounds before I hit that 100-gram mark. And yeah, I'm putting the numbers on my Ravelry page at how many rounds I hit 50 grams, and I will put how many rounds I'll hit the 100 grams, so you can know how big a square you would be able to crochet with just 1 or 2 balls of yarn if you crochet at the same gauge I am crocheting. And the last project I'm going to show you is the second new cast on, and it's another square, and it's also crochet. Yeah, it's just not my favorite, but it's my second favorite crochet project at the moment. And it's another square for Viva Vittoria. I am using this 8-ply yarn by Opal out of the series Ice Palast. It's quite a nice color that I had several balls of in my shop, so I thought I could use that. And at first I was thinking of crocheting another square out of the book Granny Square Patchwork. That's the book that I used for the very first square that I made for Viva Vittoria, but I couldn't decide on a pattern, so I decided to use another book by the same author. The author is Shelley Husband, and this is the other book that I owned by her. It's called Siren's Atlas, and it has 50 or 60 something squares in it, and all the squares are named for a body of water. It could be an ocean, it could be a lake, or a pond. I don't know if ponds have names. I don't know. So why can't I find how many squares are in the book? I feel it's either 52 or 64. I'm not quite sure. 64. Okay, so basically all the patterns in the book, if you use the same yarn, will have the same size. So far I've crocheted 3 patterns from the book. So this is the 4th pattern that I'm crocheting, and I'm actually crocheting this square. It's called Mozambique, and of course with her colors, the patterns are very clearly, the patterns show very clearly, but with my yarn, because I'm using the many colored yarn, it's not quite as clear, but I think it's still okay. And it's a fairly small square, you will probably think now, and I'm supposed to make a 50 by 50 centimeter square, but my idea was to crochet 4 of these, sew them together. That will still be a bit too small, and then I will just go round and crochet an edge around all 4 squares until I hit the 50 centimeters. I'm not quite sure whether there's a pattern in this book, but in the Granny Square workshop book, there are several patterns just given, so you can make squares that you've crocheted bigger than they were before. So fairly simple rounds, but that's where I will probably have a look. I could just do rounds of double crochet or something, but I probably have a look at the book and see if I can make something a little nicer. And that reminds me that I've already changed a little bit in this square, because the last round was supposed to be double crochets and I did trebles. And I keep being confused with English and with American and British terms for crochet. So yeah, the stitches were supposed to be smaller and I did the one size bigger stitch. Yeah, so that's the last project. That's everything that I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!